my friends, let's get straight to the Avdiivka direction. Today, the occupiers have decided to increase the number of attacks once again, despite the complete failure of all their previous attempts over the past 10 days. Powerful attacks have been reported in the Novokalynove and Stepove areas. They are attempting to expand the territory they control on the northern flank to further complicate the situation for the Ukrainian Armed Forces. However, our units understand this and are carrying out counterattacks. Therefore, the occupiers are shelling the area near Krasnohorivka. This clearly indicates that counterattacks are underway and the front line is very dynamic. There are also ongoing attempts by the Russians to break through to Avdiivka's outskirts, but there have been no successes so far. Furthermore, attacks have resumed on Severne. For the Russians, it's crucial to regain the lost territory, which puts significant pressure on our forces in the direction of Avdiivka. But now, after a successful advance by the Ukrainian Armed Forces, our units control the positions there and the Russians are unsuccessfully trying to retake them for further actions aimed at surrounding Avdiivka. So it's evident that the Russians have a command to capture Avdiivka at any cost. This is why there is growing discontent among the war correspondents who consider the losses not worth the small achievements they make. Moreover, we see a significant increase in the number of shelling incidents. This indicates that the challenges persist and it's too early to relax. In fact, Zaluzhny visited Avdiivka and expressed his support for our soldiers. And further south, battles are ongoing in Makiivka, and as for Novokalynove, all attacks were repelled yesterday. Some good news. Okay, before we continue, I'd like to ask you to share this video on social media and watch it to the end. It greatly helps promote my channel. Thank you. In the Bakhmut direction, the occupiers continue their attempts to advance towards Peschanivka, but without success. Ukrainian Armed Forces repel all attacks and the front line remains unchanged. On the northern flank, the high intensity of shelling has ceased and there have been no attacks. Shelling continues in the Siversk area. Here, it appears that the occupiers have no intention of launching an offensive, considering the overall losses along the entire front line. In the direction of Kremenna, offensive actions are still ongoing, and the occupiers are getting closer to the village Makiivka with each attempt. The situation is indeed challenging, but the Ukrainian Armed Forces are fighting and doing everything to prevent the Russians from advancing further. In the Svatova area, battles are taking place near the village of Nadia with no advancements, and the front line remains unchanged over the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, the situation is similarly challenging. So the occupiers continue to attack in the Senkivka and Ivanivka areas without changing their direction. They hope that their persistent assaults will lead to a breakthrough on the front. Additionally, they subject the Ukrainian Armed Forces positions to heavy shelling, making the defense more difficult. They understand that it's impossible to maintain positions under constant fire and attacks, and the Ukrainian Armed Forces may have to retreat, so they use this tactic. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces continue to hold their ground and resist despite all difficulties. Now, let's move on to the southern directions. So, in the Vuhledar direction, the occupiers persist in heavy shelling along the entire front line, and the battles near Novomayorsk haven't led to changes in the front line. Therefore, the occupiers have decided to launch a new offensive from Novodonetsk towards Zolota Neva. However, the Ukrainian Armed Forces maintain their defense there, and the front line remains unchanged as before. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the occupiers have intensified challenge and are attempting to target rear areas, including depots and equipment. There has been no respite in challenge along the front line, and Robotyne in particular is heavily shelled. The occupiers were unable to dislodge the Ukrainian Armed Forces from the village with their attacks, so they are now trying to destroy it with artillery fire. Therefore, this situation is extremely complex. As of the time of creating this video, there have been no reports of new offensives on the flanks. However, within a day, the occupiers all have made multiple attempts to advance in various directions. As a result, the situation changes significantly. Despite this, there have been no changes along the front line. The Ukrainian Armed Forces maintain their defensive positions, but have been unable to advance further. The Russians, in turn, hold their positions and continue to fortify their defenses every day. Additional minefields have been laid in the fields, and new fortifications are being constructed to prevent the Ukrainian Armed Forces from breaking through to Bakhmut. To be honest, this situation is not very optimistic. Perhaps that's why the decision to launch an offensive in the Kherson direction was made, because the Russians here are not expecting a large-scale offensive. I'd like to note that there is no official information yet, so we rely on map updates and information from the Russians. If the Ukrainian Armed Forces manage to advance here before the Russians deploy additional reserves for defense, then the Zaporizhzhia direction will also weaken significantly, and major changes will occur in the south. As of the latest reports, Ukrainian forces are advancing on the left bank in the Peschanivka and Poyma areas. The advance, or more precisely, the gray zone, has expanded by 3 kilometers and 200 meters, and the occupiers claim they are trying to halt the movement of our troops with artillery fire. Also, yesterday evening, the Russians began reporting that the Ukrainian Armed Forces had initiated attacks in the Kremenna area. In the meantime, it turns out that Putin helps everyone but ends up abandoned by everyone each time. To understand this, to understand what I talk about, I want to show you an excerpt from an interview with Russian citizens.
Вот я уважаю за все. Вот сейчас война у нас началась, кто сейчас ругается? Путин. Где у нас там это землетрясение произошло в этом, в Турции? Вот. Помогли. Нам кто помогает? Никто не помогает. Путину все кидают, а Путин всем помогает.
А вам как-то Путин помогает?
Конечно, помогает. И пенсию прибавляет брату, блин. И матери прибавляет. Ну, копейки, но все равно, ну, миллиарды людей.
К Новому году по 5 тысяч прям дал нам всем, пенсионерам.
Пенсионерам. Вот, я говорю, он Путин, я за него прям... Это человек, нормальный человек.
А так вот сейчас хотя бы понемножку, вот в феврале, да, тоже немножко он прибавил и нам, и инвалидам.
Ну, это мы же не одни тут,
да.
По всей России это посчитайте. Сколько людей?
Ну, по 200 рублей,
ну,
так, нормально.
Ну, сколько-то? Миллиард, считай.
However, they don't even realize what a criminal Putin is, thanks to their propaganda. And when Biden addressed the Americans to explain why it's in the interest of the United States to support Ukraine and Israel, he briefly explained it.
Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine.
And that's all from me. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.